pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ken Demers,
Here.
Robert DeCina,
Here.
Gary Lafferty,
Here.
Robert Ritalik,
Present.
Rachel Ryan.
Thank you. Minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for March 13th, 2023?
I make a motion that we approve the March 13th, 2023 regular subcommittee meeting minutes.
Second. Any discussion, any changes, anything? No, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public participation is going to be quick tonight. Nobody here. All right. Correspondence? None. Old business? Hungerford Ave.
Good evening, Jerry Lukowski, Director of Public Works. So Hungerford Ave, I reviewed the documents this morning with design, and we're looking at doing, I know I've been stating 20 basins by a contractor. We're probably looking at only doing 12. It's a road that didn't really have any catch basins on it, and we're making drastic improvements to it. One of it, I was worried about the cost. There's a lot of ledge that we have to get through. But the other 8 basins we're gonna have on there as an alternate bid item, so we could see where prices come in for that project. Highways is about halfway done. They got about 3 or 4 basins of their 7 to get completed, and they're basically on the top portion, on the flat portion of the road. The 12 plus the 8 for the contractors is mainly on the real steep slope portion of the road. And this will let us get Frederick Street done. There's the other hat that I wear. There's a 6-inch water main contract that's been awarded to the contractor, and the pipe material has been, it's being held by the contractor. So we'll be able to get that water main in and also pave that road at the conclusion of the Hungerford Avenue reconstruction project. Any questions?
Who's the contractor for to do the other basins of that?
That has to go out to bid.
Okay.
So we don't have that yet. But we've been getting calls from contractors knowing that we're putting a lot of projects out in the street and are interested in bidding for us. One of them is Manchester Construction. And I did ask, are they from Manchester? And they said no, but they're somewhere local. I'm not sure if they're in town.
And is there a water main, through the chair, is there a water main down Frederick already that you're replacing?
Yeah, it's
or?
a smaller, I think, 1.5 inch copper.
Oh.
And our goal is to eventually get it through Frederick Street, and there's a right-of-way. We're not sure if you know, regular water pipe could go in that right-of-way, and I'll check with the attorneys when Paul gets back from vacation for that, because we could connect it and have a loop with the other street.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Question, Chair.
Yep.
Regarding the water pipe that goes down Frederick or up Frederick, whatever may be said, would that be one of the primary water sources for the Greenbrier apartment complexes?
No, it's only, I would say, about 8 to 12 houses on that street.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right. Thanks, Chair.
Pavement, any other questions? Okay, pavement management, I think the biggest thing I'd like to get through is the ARPA for the 1.5 million. This has probably been briefed about 6 times. First beta came in, even before I started. It was one of my first meetings, and they briefed us the report. And then we briefed it a few additional times with the Public Works Subcommittee and the Town Council. And I also brought some additional material. This was the last time I briefed it. I just called
Thank
that
you.
slide into So these are I went over this a few times, I show all these graphs that even I get confused on with the curves. So these are the 5 things that we want to go after: full depth, mill and overlay, chip seal, crack seal, and structures. And in the beta study, they said we have a backlog of $45.3 million. And what I'm looking to do is full depth and mill and overlay is on bonding. Mark asked me how much could I break it out over 2 to 3 years. So that's on the bottom right, because that's the bid, the bonding ceiling, how much money we could borrow. So I said we'll go slower on bonding because we do have a lot of other projects that we're putting out the door. But the big things I'm looking for is the bottom 3 of our ARPA funds. And my goal is to spend as much as I can to fix the roads in the first year or 18 months. But I broke it out into 2 years. Chip seal, thank you very much for the bid waiver. But also Dosh King did come back and said that they would hold their prices from 2 years ago that they gave us. So I'm looking at doing part of the chip seal with Seymour and part of it with Dosh King. And in the future, I'm gonna put out a bid for like a 5-year bid, but it'll be extended each year. It's not like giving it something for 5 years, but 1 year at a time. And just to wrap it up further, is on the back of your package, this is the initial outlay of what we wanna do for crack sealing. And I'm not sure if that ever came to the board, because it's really like a nominal cost. You're just crack sealing the road, and you can see a picture of the actual work that's being done. And then on the roads to be chip sealed, you could see, you know, the chip seal photograph, and these are the initial roads. What I want to do is also come back at the end of the summer and beginning of the fall, is to do another round of crack seal and chip seal for that. So that starts the part of the 1.5. So we have, right now, trying to get a shovel in the ground. I can't, because I don't have access to the ARPA funds. So I can't cut a PO for either of these contracts right now until it gets through town council. And I think it probably also has to get through a town council vote for those ARPA funds to come towards Public Works. And I think we do have a meeting coming up in the next week with that as one of the topic items for the 1.5 million for the ARPA funds for the pavement, you know, improvements that we need in town.
We didn't, sorry, through the chair. We didn't vote on that already, Ken? To move that forward?
I was just thinking the same thing, Rob.
We voted on the ARPA funds for other projects before I got here, but the 1.5 million was discussed but never voted on.
So we don't have a meeting, I don't think, until next week.
I think that's when it comes up again for that. The good news is, off of the beta estimates, the prices are lower, which is good, because maybe the 45 million is only 40 million or 35 million. And we could do more roads for that.
Nice.
Just one question to you.
Sure, go ahead, Gary.
Are you going to do any of these roads in any particular order, or is it?
Actually, on crack seal, they get to it pretty quick. They're really not in any road that long.
Yeah.
So crack sealing is probably a couple days to a week, maybe 2 weeks.
To do all? Yeah.
And chip seal is pretty quick operation too. So it's not like a full depth reconstruction or a mill and pave. They'll be in and out for all these projects within a week, like I said, a week or two.
Okay.
Some of the roads we can't chip seal until we crack seal first. We want to make sure the biggest thing is to get not have the water infiltrate into the pavement and frost heaves in the winter. So crack seal and then the chip seal on top of it. And like I said, the biggest thing, and we anticipate anywhere from 6 to 12 calls coming in that you dented my car. Well, you were going a lot faster than 15 miles an hour while the application process is being, you know, installed, or you got tar in my car. And usually you know the difference is I've driven on chip sealed roads, 15 miles an hour, you don't really hear anything. When you go like the speed limit at 30, you definitely hear, or 45, you hear it. So and we're gonna put this message out. This is gonna be advertised on our town website, on our Facebook, and even in the paper. So, and I had those signs on the front here at the last meeting.
Right.
We're gonna get those signs out there too, so they know what's coming.
Okay.
Because if we get a handle of the calls up first, it's much easier if we put that information out.
Through the chair, I have a question about the chip sealing. So, what about the chips that end up on people's yards?
There is, I haven't noticed that in the past.
And when
because-
they did my road, my whole 6 feet in was full of chips, because it goes around the corner, and they just flew up and onto and I
I don't-
made them back off, but I didn't know if there was something that is really supposed to be done afterwards, where somebody calls up and complains about it. Do we go out and address it, or?
I'll keep an eye on that, so especially all the curves.
Yeah.
And even in Southbury where I did this, I didn't see that happen, because usually they put down the oil, then they put down the chips, and then they come in and do the initial vacuum of once the chips are there after a day or two. So it might be that 1 or 2 day period where you got a lot of rain,
Yep.
or they were speeding on the road.
Right.
Rob, do you have curbs?
Yeah.
Curbs?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it flew over top of the curbs and all over the lawn.
Did this work itself into the yard, or is it so much you couldn't?
Oh, yeah, there was some, I had to rake it back
Yeah.
out onto the street. And then I got it before they came back around and swept the stuff that made it to the curb. Okay.
Any other questions?
Only one comment here.
Sure, go ahead, Gary.
I think Rob brought it up once before about using the reverse E911 thing. Like now, we get phone calls now where, about, they're gonna be, pumping the hydrants in your neighborhood. So I don't know if you can just warn the people of the certain streets you're gonna be doing, each week or something like that, or.
Yeah, which department has that, police or fire?
Police.
Police. I could talk to the chief.
Yeah, that, or, 'cause, I live in the other water district, so I don't know if they have their own system or not.
I think it's the same.
Same thing.
And you do get a call for winter
Yeah.
flushing hydrants?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we could pinpoint the roads too. We don't have to do the whole,
Yeah.
town.
Right, you
Just
could
hit
pick
those-
the roads out.
Pick the roads out,
Yeah.
and so they get the calls.
Yeah.
But then even some of the through roads, somebody's gonna, be
Yeah.
doing the 30-mile speed limit twice as fast as, but we could at least hit those targeted roads.
Through the chair.
Sure.
Jerry, sir, I've noticed on the list for roads to be chip sealed, 40% of them, 7 out of the 18, are on the Mount Fair Farms subdivision or development. Those houses have been there probably from 88, 89 on up until now. Is that because of the 30-year time period that the road started degenerating? Or is it response to complaints also?
No, it's more from our beta study
Yeah.
than anything else. And, it's probably and what we also noticed too is some of the roads are so far gone that we can't actually chip seal. When we work with the contractors and saying, they have a method of the single chip, but they have another method of where they double chip, where they'll oil chip it, that they're saying, so we actually took off a few of the roads and are gonna have to go to the next level, which is mill and overlay. So it's no particular reason for complaints or anything like that.
All those roads there in that area, Mount Fair, they have sidewalks and they have curbing.
Yes.
As you brought up about the curbing.
Yeah, and the curbing will actually help with the chip seal. It'll
Thank you.
at least keep in the majority of the chips.
I just had one comment, Chair. Gulfview Drive I see on here, and I just happened to be there last week for something. That road is the beginning of the road where it starts the uphill. That road's falling apart.
Yeah, and that's some of the, we actually went out with Seymour Seal Coating.
Yeah,
And some of them, we kept on it just to see what we could
Yeah.
get out of it. Because it's probably a 10th or a 15th of the cost of a mill and overlay.
sure.
So I hate doing tests, but it's better than spending 10 to 15 times the amount of the money.
Yeah,
And I will go drive that road tomorrow morning on my way in.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I look at it.
all right, thank you.
Also, any other comments?
Anything else, guys? No. Good. We're good.
The next one is the Wilson Street Bridge project. Thank you very much for the funding that we're going to get back from the DOT. The 8-week estimate was 3.5 weeks ago, so I'm tracking on that funding coming in from the DOT. The contract has been signed by the contractor and the town manager. The notice to proceed was issued by me, and so they officially were able to start on, it was either last Wednesday or this past Thursday. So you'll see a lot less of us out there and a lot more of the contractor to start.
That's at the corner?
That's at the Wilson Street Bridge.
Oh, Wilson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So the $1.9 million and change contract is underway. Just before we got signed, we did put in a platform for the utility company to put in the telephone pole. And we did, the town removed 2 additional trees that were dead. I didn't like them in that location because we would have a brand-new bridge, and then the trees were already dead, and they would fall over and come up against the bridge or get stuck underneath the bridge. So those are down, and we also used our vac truck with Waterbury to try to find the top of the pipe, and we got down 10 feet, and we didn't find the pipe, so we think it's really buried that 36-inch aqueduct very deep like it should be, because of the 80% of the water for Waterbury and 100% of the water for the water and sewer, not the fire district water. So that's good news for us.
Go ahead, Herb.
Through the chair. Jerry, to go along with that very good article that was in the Republican about the bridge reconstruction project,
Yep.
I'm just curious, was all that infrastructure put there in place from Waterbury probably almost 100 years ago? Is that taxable property that we could tax them?
I'm not sure. I know some of the water infrastructure is not taxable like the utility infrastructure is. I did have some of those thoughts myself about that. And it's, you know, something I could talk to Faith from the town assessor's office to see what her thoughts are, because they have all the rules on what you could assess and what you can't assess.
It's kind of scary that pipe, you're already down 10 feet and can't find it.
Yeah, and like I said, they knew the horizontal where, they just didn't know the vertical, how deep. But my thought is maybe they were off on where it was at.
Yeah.
But it was a very large trench that we excavated with the vac truck. And it was not just like one spot. They said they were like 10 to 15 feet long with the trench that was like this wide with the vac truck.
Wow.
Those are wooden
It's,
piping? under
no, it's a concrete pipe.
Okay.
I think there's only one manufacturer left in the country that makes that type of pipe, and that was always the concern of Waterbury, because it's not, and I think they have some spare pipes, but I'm not sure the condition of those pipes for that.
It scares me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. That probably the stream that is there probably couldn't even handle the flow from that pipe. And talking about, I'm sure someone thought about this before, it's not only the pipe, but I also understand the treatment plant, I think, is in Watertown.
Yes, it is.
So, the pipe and treatment plant.
It's not
Through
being,
the chair.
Sure.
That would be at the dead end of Gilbert Road, no outlet.
Right.
Well, I made it through there once. Nobody
You went
stopped
through
me.
there?
Yeah. I drove all around the plant and got out. So,
When that, through the chair again.
Sure.
When that filtration plant was built 25, 30 years ago, it was built in conjunction with Watertown and Waterbury. Policemen were hired from both towns and the city, rather, to work there for the plant.
yep. It's a critical part of our infrastructure. And what's good is we don't own it, but I know we did pay into it for their upgrades. There's a certain percentage of what we had to pay for the water treatment plant and the sewage treatment plant that's in Waterbury.
Taxable
Not sure,
back then?
not sure, so.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
You got,
No, the only thing is, there's, I know you're worried about the water line. Is there gonna be much blasting out there?
No, there shouldn't be
No.
any. Some of them, they have to go to different type of spread footings, and to spread the load out and not, go as deep. It's still gonna be a very strong bridge. And, any of the work, because we're gonna have a large crane there, they're probably looking at shutting the bridge down in, like June for, many months, to get the new bridge, in place. And like I said, it's a great local contractor, Dayton, that has the job.
So Dayton carries the liability if they bust the pipe?
It's all in the, I think we'll have to have lawyers probably get involved with the goals. We're never gonna get to that. And even the initial, which is still kind of tough work, dropping those big trees, and we made sure we didn't drop them on top of the pipe. So, and we always make sure that Waterbury's right with us when we're working in the specific area. So, which I thought was good, because they're always out there when we're doing work, especially on top of or in the vicinity of the pipe.
Chair, did we cover?
I'm sorry, I skipped over C.
That's why I thought you
Yeah,
were talking, I'm like, okay.
So somehow I got excited about the bridge. So are we good with Wilson Street? And I'll come back to C.
Sure.
The Buckingham Street at Echo Lake, the work is ongoing. It's not like the priority of the department, but it's a fill-in. And talking about fill, that's like the next biggest piece we're doing is filling in the rest of that corner. So any work we have on that side of the town, we don't bring the fill to the transfer station, we bring it to that project site. There's an understanding when we do the street, Frederick Street for the water main, that we might take the excess materials and bring them to that location if they're clean. The next step is there's additional tree work that has to be done that we can't get to. It's in the triangle of electrical lines that kind of go in that corner. And I also went out there with Mark, the town manager, for a group who wants to donate some funding for that corner. It's the Watertown Foundation for that. So I heard of upwards of $25,000
Awesome.
that they want to do, and we're going to come up with like a schematic. We never thought it would take off this far, with some sidewalks, some lighting, and we're also working with the Economic Community Director, Joe Seacrest, to get all those seals updated, because they were probably put on that sign 10 or 20 years ago. And also the tree company wants to know if they could do it to get some recognition on the corner. I haven't talked to Mark about that one yet. It was brand new this afternoon. Good Old Boys Tree Service said, hey, we'll take care of the trees if we can get some recognition here on the corner.
Awesome.
So,
In the center of the island there, where it's not filled in yet, is there a catch basin right there?
there's a catch basin in there. We're not gonna necessarily need it, because it's not the low point for drainage. We're gonna keep it in place, put filter fabric on top of it, and, we're gonna, put the fill on top of it. If we ever need to get back at it, it'll still be accessible. We could dig it out, the filter fabric, filling in the entire catch basin. So,
I think all those logos were put in by the Chamber of Commerce
oh, the,
on the bulletin board or
yep.
billboard.
Yeah, it's all the locals, yep.
Yeah, yeah.
We got pictures of it. Joe Seacrest has it, and he's actually, we think we found the artist that did all the seals and emblems. And plus, we just want to make sure if they're still a viable organization in town that they were put up so many years ago. So,
All right. Great. Any other questions?
yeah, just make sure I don't skip anything again.
He's trying to get out of here fast tonight.
New business.
Yeah, and I just, before I start, I really wanted to, thank the team. Feel comfortable enough. I don't need necessarily everybody here all the time, from engineering and highways. I'd also like to thank you and the town council for listening to me over the past, I probably briefed you guys 10 times over the past like 3 months. And more specifically on the budget, I know it's a tough job for the team, but we're at 2.25 million for the past 10 years. And you take in inflation, and I looked at it today, it's about a 29% increase over the past 10 years. And pay raises were about 20 to 25% over the past 10 years. Basically, we cut probably the department in half of that 2.25 million that we just flatlined it. And we could do that at times, but not if we want to keep the infrastructure, up and running, and especially for the organization for efficiency with the third mechanic, the third foreman, and another MEO, equipment operator to support that third foreman. So, for that. Getting into new business is spruce wood. This is a twin pipe. It's in the drainage right-of-way between two houses. The bid's gonna open up tomorrow. We do have either $70,000 or $80,000 in the account to lay that 130 linear feet of pipe. And this is where the contractors, we get a lot of calls, and that's one of the calls we received from Manchester Construction for that. But this was one of the jobs that Highways was gonna, pick up, and I'm trying to get them off of construction and more onto maintenance. Because we would have been out there for like 2 to 4 weeks between two houses. Because we'll work, we have an emergency, we'll have to leave it in place, go take care of the emergency for 2 to 3 days, and then come back to it. So we're pretty excited to open those bids up tomorrow. I think it's at 11 o'clock. Usually our bid openings are with Donna, the purchasing agent. Anything on spruce wood?
Anybody?
Through the chair.
Sure.
Was this anticipated when the Ivy was built to open up spruce wood to allow emergency vehicles easy access in and out of the Ivy?
I'm not sure. I do know it was an existing infrastructure that's been there for a long time. I think well before the Ivy. Actually, a part of the yard collapsed in the property owner's yard. It's definitely an unsafe condition. It's about a 10 by 10 foot wide opening that we're gonna fix with this pipe. Part of the pipe was already replaced. We're just taking it from there down to the main road, which is Bunker Hill, right near Sprucewood.
Yep.
Right there, so, for that.
Is the pipe in the street, or is it in?
The pipe is in the drainage right-of-way between two houses.
Okay, because we just paved that street, didn't we?
We're not doing any, it's really all within the right-of-way. I mean, we might have some patch around a catch basin to tie into it,
Right.
so, but
So
nothing.
I thought
big.
all those streets just got paved.
Yeah, nothing, it's all, the biggest part of this project is there's a gentleman who's had a garden for 20 to 30 years, and it's all about his soil. And he wants to move the soil before we come in and do his work. So we gave him heads up, and first he was like, how come you're not getting this done quick enough? And now he's like, oh, I need more time, I gotta move all my soil. So we're getting to it, so, for it. The next item is Connecticut DOT Route 8 diversion plan meeting. I don't really have any details on this, but they did notify Watertown and Thomaston. There's a heavy presence from us, fire department, police department, and the meeting's at the fire department on April 18th. So once I get more information, I can bring it back to the subcommittee. And usually they advertise, I know the DOT does, to see I looked it up quickly, and there's like diversions just about every town on Route 8, especially like Waterbury with the Mixmaster. And so I don't know what work they're gonna do that could possibly impact us, for that. I do know there's a single lane up there when you're going in from Thomaston to Watertown. They convert it over to one lane. And usually most of the work they're doing is they're able to keep a lane open on the highway.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to make everybody, aware of it. Next one is Household Hazardous Waste Day. It's held 3 times a year. And the first one for this year is in Middlebury. We do support it with 1 employee. Every town does within the district of that NVCOG. I'll also post the next 2 Haz Waste Days that are coming up in the middle of the summer and at the beginning of the fall. It's really good because it keeps the Haz waste out, gets it out of the house, and it's also keeps it out of the water courses and the groundwater. If somebody wants to, for the resident, it's free. We do have an account. Each of the towns will get their bills. We always have to watch out when it's in our town because usually that's when you get most of the residents coming in to drop off their Haz waste for that. Guernsey Town is out to bid. The bid opening is 25 April. And we're just tracking on some revisions. Usually contractors will ask us questions and we'll put out, they'll ask us RFIs, request for information. So Paul's been working with Donna and getting the information back out. This is an 80-20 project, 80% other, state, federal, and 20% us. We paid for the design up front. So, but as I get tighter with the money, I don't like saying I don't have a handle on it. I'm trying to look for a better word. But Paul's going to call up from the agency that sponsors the DOT and NVCOG to say, hey, how's the 80% actually going to get to us? Is it reimbursement, or do we need it up front? And I hope it's reimbursement and we don't need it up front for that project. And I know that's probably been on the books for a few years too.
This is West Road in Guernsey Town? Is that what it is?
I think the guys called it Phase 5, so I think it's where the bad curves are at on Guernsey Town for that.
That's gotta be it.
Gotta be the West Road project.
Mm-hmm. Main Street, there's a lot going to go on Main Street, over the next few years between Oakville and Watertown. The first 3 is it's a light at the mobile station, so you could get out near St. John's, and then it's a sidewalk from Starbucks to the St. John's wall. And the wall itself is going to be another project where we take the wall down, we build a new wall farther back in order to get the sidewalk in there. But the third part about this is the rotating flashing beacons to help with the crosswalks. So you see them in other places where they hit the button, and it's not like a green, yellow, or red light, but there's like yellow strobes just to alert the motorist that someone hit the button and they're going to start to cross across the road. It's currently being reviewed by the DOT. They gave us their comments back. It's like a small project, but it's tough because it's 3 different designers are doing this. I wish it was just one designer or one belly button I could talk to. It's SLR, it's us as the second designer, and Weston and Sampson is the third designer on it. And I wish in the future, if we're doing a stretch of road, it's all on one designer. So this, the complexity of coordinating the three for when we put it out to bid is the tough part.
And that money's already been approved.
Yeah, we have that. Well, I don't want to say yes. I'll
I have
give
to
it a.
say yes, because we voted on that 12 times.
Yes,
since I've been on.
at least.
And that's, I got like all the projects, I kind of know where all the money's at, and now it's like putting the two together as far as all the funding coming through that I don't have. Maybe the answer is a definite maybe. No. So.
Is this the 230 or 240,000 that I think we've,
I thought it was 148 or something like that.
maybe 240 was total? I can't remember.
I'm getting,
It seems like we voted on it, as Rob said, it seems like
Yeah.
we voted on it 3 times already. Yeah.
so I'll, like I said, each meeting I get smarter, and we're having some pretty good public works meetings every other week with the team. So I could gather all of that, and the one thing that I got out of their vocabulary is, Roy, Roy's got it, Roy, well, Roy's not here anymore.
Right.
So we gotta understand where everything is at, so.
Yeah, I'm all in favor for those flashing beacons, because somebody's gonna get hurt on Main Street,
Again,
right? Even the cars that are parked back from the line, you still can't see the person on the sidewalk. And, and I feel guilty when I'm coming down and somebody's standing there, and all of a sudden you catch them and you're, oh, geez, I should have stopped, but.
Right, right.
You know,
I do it
and
all
some
the time.
people don't look, they're in the crosswalk and they just start walking,
you're right.
right? And somebody's gonna get hurt if we don't.
And, with that part of that is getting a good portion of vehicles off the road.
Yep.
But that's tied into the acquisition of the building, which I heard it had some positive traction on it recently. And then it's also the, doing the road that's right next to us and
Yeah,
getting
Hemingway.
Hemingway. And then we're, the Johanna Hayes grant that we received, so there's a lot of projects going on.
Right.
And, in foresight, if it was that one designer, this way you could get on a roll. And, with, especially with coordination going back with the DOT to review the comments. And that's my next one, unless you have any questions on Main Street, is, my next one is we do have 3.3 million for ADA sidewalks at 170 locations in the town. Americans with Disability Act, ADA. And mainly it's those curb cuts with the tactile warning, the little round dots in it. And it's just not 178 corners. It's 178 times the 2, 3, or 4 different sidewalk ramps for each of those corners throughout the town.
Wow.
The design is in-house. Jason, Joe, and Mike are doing a great job with it, with Paul reviewing it. We did get a ton of review comments back from the DOT a few months ago, and they're down to like 5 or 7 different locations that they're doing the final touches on it to put it out to bid. So that's all I'm saying. It's this amount of if it was this $6.5 million in pavement. It's like, great, we could run with it, get it done in a year, but it's a lot of other projects that are coming in at us at the same time. And with that, there's one other topic I wanted to talk about it with Spruce Wood a little bit. It's just a bigger part, unless there's any other discussions on ADA sidewalks.
I just thought that at one time, we saw a lot of what you discussed, the wall at St. John's, the turning part of Hemingway into a one-way, bumping I thought SLR did all of that. I thought the presentation was from SLR.
I think SLR did the initial study,
Okay.
but not the actual design.
So we saw a concept.
Yeah, we saw a
okay.
concept, and from that concept, we should have either stuck with SLR or put out an RFP for a designer other than SLR. I'm comfortable with SLR.
Yeah.
Especially with the communications. What's happening is all the firms are so busy with the amount of work going on in the state that, one, you can't find an engineer. Two, the real deal is you have to really harass them, call them all the time, so you're at the top of their list. Because if you don't, you kind of go down to the bottom of their list. And I'm starting to have that with our project meetings. And I know I'm not gonna get anywhere if I discuss all 50 projects and we gotta move out at once, is I'll try to take 3 to 5 projects at a time and focus on those. And that's why you'll see on the list, you know, like Wilson Street, you know, and it's actually the whole thing here from old to new business is kind of like the priority in what we've been working on. So, but there's a lot of more projects below 8F that I don't wanna waste our time in discussing if we're really not working on it.
So I have a couple questions.
Sure.
For him. First of all, Main Street. When are we gonna see a shovel in the ground on Main Street? Any one of these projects?
Mark asked me that probably 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
So he's on me with that. And like I said, at Hungerford pavement, Wilson Street Bridge, these others are Guernsey Town. And then, so as they get higher up on the list, they get more and more focused. You know, so now we actually leaned heavily on the consultant for Weston and Sampson, who's got their rotating flashing beacons. They're saying, hey, we need your updated design. The DOT didn't like what you submitted. So probably realistically, you know, bid April, May, probably bid in the May, June time period. The key is we got an extension or two, and like the drop dead date is like next May or June, that we have to get the work done. The work getting started, shovel in the ground, is probably late summer, early fall.
Okay, so the next one is, since you mentioned Hemingway Park Road.
Yep.
Up the top of Hemingway Park Road, there's that curb that's.
Oh, it's horrible.
Is there anything that we could do about that? Can we cut it out of there? Can we-
You know, I think I got a handle on it now, but my first 2 or 3 times coming out of the road, I thought
right.
I got hit by an IED or
Yeah,
something.
right.
Where'd that come from?
Or you're afraid
Did
to
I-
hit it, so you take the big swing going
Yeah,
on that
I thought I
road.
did something wrong, but now I keep on looking at it. It's not that you do something wrong, it's just,
Yeah.
it really sticks out about 3 to 5 feet too long.
Yeah.
So, I'll go out there with a sledgehammer
Well,
tonight
that's,
and
I
knock
was
it
just
out.
wondering if there was something that we could do for,
That's
because I'm sure
hard.
everybody's wrecking their tires and
Make it
wheels.
handicap.
And their rims too. The
Yeah.
whole-
I have just one question.
Sure.
On the Main Street part, Chair, you said, is that, where it says lights, is that traffic light? or
It's
is it-
one light.
Yeah, okay, I think there's already a light there, but it's like not being used or whatever.
There's a light that doesn't face the gas
Oh,
station.
I thought it did. Wait, when I
So it's
went
like
by-
the Wild West, you hit there
Yeah.
at the gas station, you just go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no control.
So now where would the stop bar be with the traffic coming north on Main Street? Because I think, because you got 2 exits and entrances to the gas station there.
It's gonna be the exit one, which is the one further to the north
Yeah.
on Main Street.
So
That's
the stop
what-
bar would be like almost right there with the intersection.
Correct, and it's gonna be on his, you know, right on our right of way with the
Yeah.
edge of the commercial mobile gas station business,
Yeah.
so.
Rob, did you have any more?
I had one more question, not related to anything on here. Do you want me to ask that now?
Sure.
Sweeping.
Yes, we started on last week, on Monday or Tuesday. So we probably got a few dozen roads already completed. And it will probably be sweeping through the month of May.
Okay.
So sweeping and water flushing start at the same time, so they started last week too within the town's water and sewer department. So, and that's part of our goal is we gotta get away from sand and put down more salt. But you also have to gear up all of your trucks to handle the salt. Because it's a special system that you say 50 to 800 pounds per mile. And usually you drop about 200 to 300 pounds per mile of salt. But I also had this discussion with the town manager but it's just the abuse that our trucks, other people's cars, and all the bridges and the culverts that are underneath the roads are gonna see, the additional salt that's on the road. It works great on the state highways, and I know in Southbury, but in Southbury I saw a lot of rusted culverts. But we have the same kind of rusted culverts, and is it because of the salt? And what they say is you're still putting down the same amount of salt even with our mix. So it's Mr. Bob Grand Prix and I are going to discuss it a lot this year.
What does it do to people who live where they have wells?
That's also a consideration too, that there's a few houses that I had to deal with that saying my well's contaminated now because of the salt on the road.
Right.
So that's why it's not this.
I think Thomaston ran into some of those problems.
Yes, definitely. Martha's Way up on top of the hill,
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a little bit tentative, and that's why, because we kind of have the old school dispensers on our snowplow trucks, where when you start and stop, you want it to slow down and speed up.
Yeah.
And that's where the computer helps you out, but you're probably talking a $20,000 to $25,000 cost per truck to do the entire fleet, for that. So.
The only question I had about this get rid of the sand in that, with all our steep hills in town, doesn't the sand give you a little more traction?
That's what the pushback I'm getting, and I think it's a valid pushback for that reason. But I also know there's just as many hills in Southbury when you go up to the Purchase, to the northern part, then,
And they cut sand out altogether?
Yep. And so did the DOT. So, and you could see the white traces on the road. They do the pre-treatment before the storm.
Right. And would you be looking to do pre-treatment also?
That's one of the things, but then you're also looking at the DOT. They're replacing their bridges every 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
You see them painting them, stripping them,
Right.
and everything, so.
One question related to the flashing beacons. When the state DOT says that they don't like a design, do they suggest a design, or do they give you enough comments where it's an easy fix?
There's design criteria that they give us, and, that they work with us, so we know what they want, but they get very particular on the details and the comments that come back, at us.
Yeah.
So,
Once that property is purchased and made into the parking lot down there, some of those cars won't be on Main Street to block, some of those crosswalks where those lights will really be.
Yeah.
so you have the sightline distance for the pedestrian as well as the car.
Right, because I know Woodbury has one that flashes.
Yeah.
And I know the Washington, by the gunnery, they have one to cross the street between the two schools, and they're
don't-
very bright.
I don't think it will eliminate all the parking on Main Street, but it's gonna be a good portion, especially, there's probably only 1 or 2 car lengths open at each of the crosswalks. It might be like, 5 to 7 to 8 car lengths,
Right.
so you could really see
See it.
somebody standing at that corner.
Right.
We've complained in the past, and, I travel that road a lot now that I work up in the middle of town, and it seems like the same people. I did see the cops there giving tickets about a month ago, which I was surprised. However, it's the same couple of vehicles. I won't tell you what year and color they are, But it's the same vehicles that stay too close to the crosswalk. So I'm assuming they're probably, I'm guessing, workers. They're there every day, and they're the ones, you know, you're supposed to be behind those white arrows, and they're not paying any attention to that, you know, which is half the problem,
Yep.
so.
Maybe we should have our liaison to the police department bring that up Wednesday night.
Thinking about this along those lines. Through the chair again.
Sure.
Jerry, have you met yourself personally with Tony Ciriello?
Yes.
Very knowledgeable, he is the de facto town traffic engineer, in my opinion. He was retained by Mark, provided assistance, worked with the state. Noticed some problems with the initial state study of doing over the Main Street corridor.
Yeah,
And-
Tony and I probably, especially when I first started, we were meeting 2 to 3 times a week. And he's the one that I like to say, you don't find too many engineers and leaders at the same time. You usually find one or the other.
I'd have to concur
But
on
Tony,
that.
I see as an engineer and a leader, and motivated.
He spoke at the meeting we're probably all thinking about with the Main Street, when we allocated the funding to get it done finally. I think your predecessor was still here. We were all on the council. And the point that was brought up that he discovered that was wrong with the state study from the onset is one way coming in from French Street. That's very important, because if they come in the wrong way, emergency vehicles, most of the emergency vehicles going north. Robert Talc and I have talked about that. From the firehouse, from the PD, they go north into Depot Street. They could come out on Depot onto Main. And one of the factors that he brought up that they were gonna do is limit Depot Street one way, going from French, going westbound, making right turn only onto Main Street, no left turns, to prohibit the flow of traffic going north. And the same thing was gonna be done here at Hemingway Park Road.
Yeah, I haven't seen that part of it with French, Depot Street going one way. All I saw was Hemingway going one way.
And Hemingway going one way would be good if it was going westbound also, exiting onto the Main Street. Right turns only. Make a right turn. No traffic coming in, because traffic coming in would have to cross across the northbound lane,
Sure.
which prohibit the flow of traffic.
Right.
I think, Jerry, we went into this at length, and there might be minutes from those meetings when he was here.
Yeah, and I said, you know, part of it, I have to apologize every time I go to Sue and ask her, what's the budget again? You know, because it takes a little bit of time to absorb it. And the same thing with Tony. I'm sure the next time we meet, I'm gonna absorb a lot more, because first I was, what's that street name again? And now I kind of have it down in the layout and the traffic flow with it.
If I may again, through the chair again, I was involved in the Main Street study at the onset. The town study, when the request was made to the state, this was after the first fatality, the first tragedy that happened, which was going back as far as late 2015. And a group went to state DOT headquarters, Tony Ciriello, Richie Antonetti, Joe Paletta, and the former town manager didn't go, Bob Scannell. And I believe Roy was gonna go, but he didn't go. And that's when they decided to get the impetus to get this going. Then the second fatality occurred. Both of those involved fatalities in or about crosswalks, mid-block crosswalks. The one up by, the name of the restaurant is now, was the Rock Garden.
Yeah.
Right next to, at the top of the base of Hemingway.
Yeah,
where
right
Hemingway-
across from the
63.
library.
Yeah.
You're right.
63.
Right in front
It's a
of the
great
library.
place. I've been there a couple times.
Yeah, and that was where the request was made at the onset to get one of the beacons set in, up there.
They actually wrote a letter, when I was eating there, they told me they wrote a letter for support for that. So the 63, the local 63.
Local 63 now, they were here at a few of our meetings. Public Works, they were here at a council meeting. Their problem is now with the parking. Because
Right,
of the
and
way,
the cars driving down Main Street so fast.
yes.
I know with getting the white building property, it's gonna help us out, because we're gonna have parking right there on Main Street,
Yeah.
so.
When you're traveling, I've been working at 424 Main Street since October last year, and when I'm pulling out of the upper parking lot every day, several times a day, it's almost, these cars coming south from Route 6 heading downtown, they're flying. There's gotta be some way, you gotta slow the traffic down at that point. Because I think what they do is they come down 63 across Route 6, and you got a little stretch there where you could get up some speed.
Yeah, you
And-
still got the feel that you're in the country, and then.
Yeah,
know that
yeah, and
transition
then all of
in
a
the
sudden,
city.
bam.
Right, you
Yeah.
hit the Town Times
Yes, that's
building
right.
and you're like, whoa, hold on
Yeah,
a minute, right
yeah.
in downtown.
Right,
Slow
right.
down.
I see it every day. It's, they cruise up over the top of that crest.
I guess that was my point about when are we gonna see a shovel in the ground, going by with Mr. DeCina said, late 2015, we had our first death, and we determined that something needed to happen on Main Street, and today, nothing has happened.
I mean, I think you could agree that most of us, I mean, we take this with a grain of salt, but I mean, I think that Main Street project's more important than Guernsey Town Road. It's more important than Wilson Street Bridge. Those you can get to, nobody's getting hurt there. So, all we need is one more problem, and I think what they say will hit the fan. Hope not.
Yes.
What else? We have
I
any,
just, have some, pre-decisional, just,
Thank you.
it's still not like solid in my mind on where we're going with drainage. But I have 3 slides. One I have titled Global, like bigger stuff. The other one's like point issues, like 1 to 4 houses. And on the back page is drainage focus, culverts and bigger projects. Some of them might slide back and forth between smaller issues and the bigger issues. And like you can see in each of the 3, I have still gathering information on it. But if I could stay on the global slide, it may be, I just recently talked to the town manager about this today. If there's a $1 million ARPA reserve for the town, if there's a possibility of breaking off 100,000, $250,000, that I could focus on the drainage. But I also got your intent, Main Street, so in my mind, it's something that I have to push even before this. But like, on the global issues, not to waste all of our time and discuss each point, but like detention basins, there's 60 of them in the town. I like to get 5 or 10 under contract and have highways also work on them at the same time. So I think Rachel brought this up, oh, you're gonna get this done this spring. I'm like, no, this is like a 5 to 10. It's gotten this bad. The town council wasn't here, the town managers weren't here, public work. This has been going on for like 30 to 40 years.
Right.
So, so if I could get funding and contract out basin cleaning. The other thing is I don't have a handle, I guess we have 4 town dams. I'm gonna get the locations. I wanna make sure I can see them and where they're at for the infrastructure. On the point issues, the 1 to 4 houses, is once I get, that slide and the slide on the other pages, go pick like 5 locations and let's go get them contracted to get them repaired. You could see the great compliments we received on Gorham and Belden Street. But do that with in-house, but also contractors at the same time. And I know there's other projects that you brought up to me for certain locations in the town that I probably don't even have on the list as I'm gathering, you know, everything, that's here. And if I could go on to the,
One question before you move
Yeah.
on, because I'm sure I'm gonna be asked the question mark before Ledgewood. Is that because the road is in such bad condition? to
yeah, I
begin with?
really think it's that entire road that has to be, you know, redone.
Yeah,
I think we lost the crown.
yeah, you did.
And in the other way, when they brought the curb line in and left the catch basins, you know, so the drainage really isn't working on that road at all. And just not one or two locations, but even on the other half of it, if you drive around it
Yeah.
and look at it. So some of these might be pavement, you know, full depth, you know, reconstruction, you know, for that.
Just a quick question, Jared, on the Middlebury Road portion of that, you have a couple different addresses. Would one of those happen to be Miss Smalley's?
Yes.
The top one.
Yeah,
And I didn't, that's why it's kind of like pre-decisional, I'm still gathering, information,
right.
you know, on it. And, there's also 1150 to 1231, those are the addresses. And even, you know, road reconstruction from Bunker Hill all the way down to the town line. So, you know, it's, I travel that road, probably half the time when I'm getting into work or going home. And,
Me too.
I'm kind of getting a good feel, for all the roads, but especially that road. So it's just not, so if we just take one, it's really, off of this list, there's 82 locations, 60 detention basins, 14 that I call, you know, point issues, and 8 that are bigger culvert, bigger projects. So there's math and public, 82 is what the, so it's just one, but it's just like, how do you rack and stack and pick and choose on how you're gonna.
Right.
And, you know, I got the, I guess, folks were renting great compliments on Gorham and Belden, and, you know, the town manager said, hey, what did you do? I said, oh, we're just working on drainage. And then people, you know, come up to him and they're thanking him. He goes, that was pretty neat to have some of those, but that was highways. But as you see with highways, they could only take on a few smaller ones. So probably most of these are, you know, 2 to 4 catch basins and a couple of 100 linear feet of pipe. But it's gonna add up. For any one person, it's a small project, but globally for the town, it's, I know I get corny jokes all the time, but our first name is Water and our last name is Town. So, there's, you know, it's great, hundreds of years ago, we're a mill town, you know, factories. But now we still have to deal with all those, you know, drainage issues, you know, for it.
So Jared, just quickly, I'm gonna try to get something off this list for you. 760 Middlebury Road has been around for a long time, and we've heard from most public works directors, most town engineers, several attorneys, and everybody's conclusion was that there's nothing wrong. So when do we take that one off the list? Because I don't see us ever doing anything.
Yep.
She's refused every type of help we've ever offered her.
Yeah, I understand that.
So, I mean, why keep offering it if it just makes her more mad? I mean, she needs to hire an attorney or hire an engineer and figure out what's wrong, because she clearly doesn't believe anything we say. Well,
I think it could be as easy as doing her apron, but I guess she refused that part to do the apron.
yeah,
And in our ordinances, it's an 1.5 inch apron. So that would solve them, you know, would help out. And at times like that, you give it a stronger 1.5 inches, like 1 3/4 inches, you know, to keep it, but she refused,
Right.
to do that.
Yeah.
And what about that, was it an 3-inch pipe she talked about?
I don't really know where that's at.
It looked like it was going like underneath her apron there.
Yeah, and I just said there's a possibility of us not having the records, and we're finding there's a lot of records up in the attic, down in the basement, in my office, in the outer offices. And, you know, thanks to the great folks that I've, you know, working, we're getting because there's a problem too in all public works, is you have this DPW director's records, then the next DPW records, and then the next DPW, and, you know, this is gonna take years to take, but we just wanna have like one record system. And so if Jason's working on ADA ramps, well, he's got the record for ADA ramps, and so it's not in the filing system.
Yeah.
You know, but all the other projects are filed within it. So I said there's a possibility of them, we don't have them, and then she took off with it and ran with it, that we destroyed the records.
Yeah.
But also in records retention, the state library tells you how long you have to keep records, because otherwise we would have to have a warehouse just for 300 years worth of records of the time. So we're starting to find them. We do have a freedom of information. So we acknowledge that we received the freedom of information, but it doesn't necessarily give us, like, you got 30, 60, 90 day. It's just, we're working it into I just got a record from upstairs on it, so.
What did the FOI, what did it ask for?
Basically, it said, why did you destroy my records, and who gave the authorization to destroy the records? So, and, you know, out of my conversation, it was just a small piece, and there's also a possibility we don't have the records anymore. And that's what we're running with right now.
I can't imagine that the town keeps everybody's records forever. It just doesn't, I think that would be an easy one to get off the table.
Through the chair.
Sure.
If there was a central repository for citizen complaints to a given town department, Public Works, the police department, so-and-so made a complaint to the police department, Public Works. Then in turn, the town manager's office is always notified by such complaints. I don't believe anybody has kept a central file of citizen complaints.
No, and I think we do a great job here from the couple of offices I've been to with communications to their residents. And, you know, we're up front in a lot of things, so.
How about the minutes of the meetings going back?
Yeah.
To as long as she's going back. She's going back to
18 years
18 years.
is when 2005, believe it or not, it feels like it's yesterday, but it's 18 years ago, so.
That shouldn't be difficult for somebody to go.
And my team helps me out with a lot of things, and, you know, they basically said, oh, you're the new guy, so, you know, now here. And that's one of the things I didn't want to press a release, oh, here's a great new guy coming on board. It's just like, because I know what happens. And we kind of wanted to keep low-key to understand the terrain, understand everything. But now they're coming out, oh, there's a new guy I want to go and approach with this topic. So. And just the last thing is, and Gary helped me out with this at the last meeting and asked me, how come our drinking water is only a C-, like the quality of the drinking water? And I didn't understand that until, you know, I thought about it for a day or two. So this is a society that I belong to, American Society of Civil Engineers. It says DPW W&S budget 2023 overview number 1. And I just strengthened the slide a little bit. So this is the report card on infrastructure. And so it's like school grades. So you could see overall for America, it's a C-, and overall for Connecticut, it's a C. We don't have grades like this for Watertown specifically, except for the closest one is we could use the beta study. But you could, and I guess the biggest part is the infrastructure is failing and just not, you know, Watertown. It's across the country in our state. And you could see these are the grades. There's a great website. I should have put the website link on here. There's a lot of great paragraphs that I'll use when I'm trying to go fight for money, because it's the same failing pipe, or it's just in a different part of the location. So you could see roads, bridges, stormwater, drinking water, and wastewater. This, like we talked about, the good thing for us for drinking water and wastewater, the biggest drivers of those components is probably the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant. We don't have that. We just have pipe in the ground and pump stations and tanks. So, and then you could see for Connecticut, they don't have a rating for stormwater. It's not rated for that specific one. So and for the big thing about me is trying to get that federal and state money in. But it's not like, you know, like I said, for the Watertown, and it's not like necessarily a direct correlation, but they gave us a 61. Does it really equate back to the standards of ASCE and how they do it? But to me, the state average is a 72, which would be a C. But you could see overall with the roads, that's also the Department of Transportation roads. That's not, you know, part of the beta studies that were done. And I'll get you the, I'll send you the link for this, because it's, you know, you got the town choir ringing the bell, you need more money, I got to fix more infrastructure, but there's like reasons, you know, behind it and what we have to do. And it's not like what we didn't do, it's just like we're going after it's kind of the norm, unfortunately, you know, across the country. And now, Gary, how come our water quality, like the actual quality? And it's more of this, the infrastructure of the pipes, the pump stations, and the water tanks.
And then it's like with your other title, you said they're gonna be going around from the roadside curb to the houses, replacing any of the old pipes, like the lead pipes and.
Yeah, that's the lead and copper rule.
So that should.
Is a big deal, and we're getting reports back to public health. And we're hoping and we hear that there's money coming out from the federal and state government to get rid of the lead pipes. Because it might be all the right thing, pipe, but this might be the little small piece of pipe that's coming across that's lead that they want to, you know, get out. And they're saying that we're supposed to make a 2% improvement to that study, so that's over 50 years. 2% a year is over 50 years that you have to replace those. And of course, and for us, the newer subdivisions, we don't have to worry about. We know there's, you know, so any subdivision after the 80s, they already took the lead out of the distribution system for supply, you know, for that.
So how do you know what houses have lead going into them? Does anybody know? They're just testing the water.
We're on C right now, A, B, C for road names. So the 26 letters in the alphabet. And it's basically, we have to go through all the field cards and everything that we have on GIS. And their spreadsheet is like super long on all. They're asking a lot more questions than other than this lead, because I think they want to use this for other things.
Right.
So when the four guys have a moment, they'll sit down and take like one street and go through the street. And then it's also visual from inside the basement when they look to see what's coming into the house. I'm also looking at hiring a couple of engineer interns, one to work here and one to work over at water and sewer. So we could say, you know, college intern, sit here and just start plugging and chugging.
Right.
Because usually with four guys, most of them are out in the field. But sometimes they'll say, you stay back, and they'll stay in for 2 to 3 hours, and then they got to run out. There's an emergency, you know, for it. We've been listening to a lot of online courses and getting smart. Out west has dealt, you know, every new funny rule that comes out comes from out west, and it spreads to the east. So we're kind of listening to a lot of lessons learned from the companies out west on how they got, you know, through this.
Right. Whatever happened, the Ordinary Joe's property, that water situation up there that was corrected, they corrected that themselves. Am I correct on that?
I believe they did, yes.
What about the Main Street one that, and you probably don't even know about this,
You're talking the stormwater
the
ordinary?
stormwater?
Yeah, one of their footings for their back deck actually
Right, I know they ended up fixing
fixing
that
it,
pipe.
yeah.
But now Main Street, almost directly across from,
Burger King,
it's further up.
at the intersection.
Oh,
near
Ninth
Carvel.
Street?
At Ninth Street.
Ninth Street,
Oh,
yeah.
Did they fix that, did the, Jeep place fix that when they did their, cause there was like that's where it bubbled over the street bad and ran down
I
Ninth
also
Street.
know it's just the next business down too, or what do you call it, the keys, how many keys in the
Right.
keyboard?
Yeah, 88 keys.
88 keys in the keyboard. There's that waterfall that comes off the top.
Right,
I don't think so. Because you look at those trough slot drains that they have in the parking lot, they're actually higher than, so I don't know how the water gets into it.
well, the
So-
one in front of the Jeep dealership, where their driveway is to go up and around, next to the Dunkin' Donuts side, that's the one that created all the stuff in front of Dunkin' Donuts
Yes,
and everything
yes.
like that, it just flowed in that direction down the street.
When we had that 100-year, when we had that
Storm.
big storm, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if that was corrected when they did the,
No, on most roads,
I don't think so.
you're designed for a 25-year storm, so if you get a 100-year storm, you know, if we had a design for a 100-year storm, the roads would be like 3 to 5 feet higher and everything, you know, their
Yeah.
drainage would be twice as big, so you kind of, you know, so you're gonna have events like that are just gonna overwhelm the system. So we've been dealing with FEMA to replace the pipe on Ninth Street. I know the issue is on the other side of Main Street, but we're working on Ninth Street, thanks to the help of Lisa Catano. She's been really great with the communications going back and forth with FEMA, and the help from Joe Millette providing. So we're trying to get like $25,000 or $50,000 out of them to help replace that
I
pipe.
know the business that counts the nights down there, anytime there's torrential rains, they have a call out and everybody goes in and they have to put all their stuff up on,
Pallets.
and everything else, just to save their equipment. And I know part of that is also because of Turkey Brook,
Yeah,
right? The Turkey Brook issue, but still, I know they've been dealing with that for years.
I thought
With-
one time they said the pipes that are down below are smaller than the pipes that are up on the hill.
Right?
Yeah.
So it starts
go
backing up.
figure, right?
Reverse
Right.
that.
Simple math.
Yeah.
And I think without the dam, it might help the problem, other than the Unico Bridge, I think, is too tight for the flow to flow through it. So that's probably the restriction right now. But like I said, the part of the problem is the other side of Main Street, not the lower
Yeah.
end.
And they're not gonna address the Unico Bridge when they put the walkway through either.
No. So, yeah, a lot of big problems, but it's great that we're not alone. It's like every single state in the entire country's,
Yeah.
not that that's a good thing, but it's especially, because I know ASC uses the USA report card to go to Congress and saying, this is why we need the money. And I know Connecticut does the same thing to the state legislature, saying why we gotta fund the infrastructure.
What else, Jer?
That's it.
All right,
Awesome.
No transfers or appropriations.
okay,
Motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Okay.
Recording stopped.
That's the report card you hid from your parents when you